Last time we ended with one question. Where are we flying to? Now let's fast forward a few hours. A flight, a bit of guessing, and a strong hope we packed the right clothes, and suddenly we land Mauritius. Now most people hear Mauritius and think, relax beach, do nothing. Yeah, that lasted about 5 minutes because this place does not just do relaxing, it does contrast. One moment you are looking at water so clear, it feels unreal, and the next, you are standing in a place where entire species almost disappeared. This is not just a destination, it is a story, and not the kind that sits on the surface.
Also, just to confirm, this was supposed to be the calm part of the trip.
Yes, that plan is no longer active, because today we are stepping into a side of Mauritius most people never see: rare wildlife, hidden history, and a few moments that make you stop and go, wait, how is this all in one place? So, if you think you know Mauritius, stay with us, because this is where it gets interesting. Let's go. We left Barcelona with that very specific mix of excitement and mild overconfidence, the kind where you think you know exactly what a place is going to be like before you even land. A few hours later, stepping off the plane in Mauritius, it was immediately clear we had underestimated it. The air feels different here, warmer, softer, carrying that unmistakable mix of ocean and tropical landscape. And as we made our way across the island toward the west coast, the scenery kept shifting. From open roads to dense greenery, from small villages to long stretches of coastline that looked almost unreal.
I had fully committed to the idea that this was going to be a relax and recover kind of destination. You know, minimal effort, maximum beach. And then the drive started, and suddenly it was not just beaches. It was mountains, forests, and views that made me immediately suspicious of how much we were about to do.
We checked into the Hilton Mauritius Resort and Spa, right near Flick and Flack Beach, and it is one of those places that instantly slows everything down. Open spaces, palm trees, the sound of the ocean just close enough to remind you it is there without needing to look.
It is the kind of place where you walk in thinking you will just drop your bags, and then 10 minutes later, you are standing still looking around, wondering if you have accidentally booked something far more impressive than you planned. Also, Joe immediately started talking about early starts again, which felt like a direct threat to my relaxation strategy.
I did not expect Mauritius to feel like this. You arrive thinking you are here for beaches, and within a few hours, you realize the island has a completely different plan for you. It does not just give you somewhere to relax, it gives you contrast. One moment, you are standing on soft white sand, looking out over water that barely moves. And the next, you are driving through dense green hills towards something that looks like it belongs in a completely different country. What makes it work is how naturally it all fits together. Nothing feels forced. The mountains, the coastline, the villages, the food. It all feels connected, like the island knows exactly what it is and does not need to explain it to you.
I will be honest. I thought I knew what Mauritius was going to be. I had a very specific image in my head. Calm beaches, blue water, maybe a coconut situation. Very peaceful, very predictable. And then we got here, and within the first day, that idea completely disappeared. Because yes, the beaches are beautiful, but they are almost a distraction. The real story starts when you leave the coastline and realize the island has layers, and those layers involve hiking and waterfalls, and Joe suddenly becoming very enthusiastic about early starts, which I personally find suspicious.
The day starts early. There is a reason for that. Tamarin Bay is one of the few places in the world where you can see wild dolphins in their natural environment. And if you want to experience it properly, you need to be out on the water just after sunrise. There is something about that moment before the day fully begins. The ocean is calmer, the light is softer, and everything feels a little quieter. You head out in a small boat, the coastline slowly pulling away behind you. And for a while, it is just water and sky.
I was not fully awake. When we got on the boat, I was physically present, but mentally still negotiating the idea of being awake at that hour. And then suddenly, everything changed. Because the dolphins do not arrive dramatically. There is no big announcement. They just appear, moving through the water, like they have always been there.
They travel in pods, gliding just beneath the surface, sometimes rising up in smooth, effortless movements before disappearing again. It is not a performance. It is not staged. You are just sharing the space with them. And when you slip into the water, everything slows down.
Swimming with them is not what I expected. There is no chaos. There is no rush. It is quiet. You are floating, watching them move. And for a moment you realize you are completely out of your normal environment. Also, I would just like to point out that Joe attempted to look very calm and graceful entering the water, and instead created what I can only describe as a surprisingly loud splash for someone who was trying to be subtle.
I stand by my entry. It was confident.
It was a very memorable moment.
After the morning on the water, the pace shifts completely. Flick on Flack stretches along the west coast, and it is the longest beach in Mauritius. What makes it different is how it is used. This is not just a scenic location, it is part of daily life. Families gather here, friends meet up, food gets shared, and the whole place feels relaxed without trying to be.
This is where Mauritius becomes very clear. It is not about perfect beach photos. It is about how people actually use the space. There are groups under trees, music playing softly somewhere in the background, kids running straight into the water without hesitation. And then there is Joe, who decided that this was the moment to attempt a very confident walk into the ocean, immediately followed by a reaction that suggested the water temperature was not part of his plan.
It was so refreshing.
It was shocking. Let us be accurate.
By late afternoon, the light starts to change. And this is where the beach really comes into its own. The sun lowers, the sky softens, and everything slows down again. It is the kind of place where you do not need to do anything. You just stay. Le Morne Brabant is impossible to ignore. It rises sharply from the southwest coast, and it carries both natural and historical significance. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, known for its role in the history of escaped slaves who used the mountain as a place of refuge. The climb starts gradually, but it becomes more challenging as you go. The terrain changes, the air shifts, and you start to feel the scale of it.
This is where Joe becomes extremely motivational. Suddenly, everything is about the view at the top and worth the effort, which is very easy to say when you are not the one questioning every life decision halfway up a mountain.
It is a fair point, but the climb is part of the experience. And when you reach the higher sections, the landscape opens up in a way that completely justifies the effort.
And then you see that spectacular view.
From the summit, you get a view of one of the most famous natural illusions in the world, the underwater waterfall. What you are actually seeing is sand and silt being pulled down into deep ocean currents, creating the appearance of water cascading into the depths. From above it, looks exactly like a waterfall flowing beneath the surface of the ocean.
It doesn't look real. That is the first thing you stand there trying to process, and your brain is not entirely convinced of what you are looking at. It doesn't make sense. It is one of those moments where you stop talking, which for me is rare, and just stand there, taking it in.
And that is what Mauritius does. Well, it gives you something visually striking, but it also gives you the space to actually experience it. From the coast and the mountain, the journey continues inland to Chamarel. This part of the island feels completely different again. The air is cooler, the vegetation changes, and the landscape starts to feel more dramatic. The seven-colored earth is one of Mauritius' most unique natural features. It is a series of sand dunes that display distinct colors, all formed through volcanic activity and mineral composition over time.
It is like someone took a paint palette and decided to organize it into hills. And the strange part is how clearly the colors separate. Even when the sand shifts, the colors do not mix.
That is due to differences in density and mineral content. Each color reacts differently, which keeps them distinct even when disturbed.
I did try to understand the science, I really did. But at some point, I just accepted that it looks incredible and moved on with my day.
Just nearby, Chamarel Waterfall drops from a height of about 100 meters, making it the tallest single-drop waterfall in Mauritius. Surrounded by dense greenery, it feels hidden, almost like you have stepped into a different part of the island entirely.
The sound hits you before the view does. You hear the water first, then you see it. And it is one of those moments where everything feels a little more dramatic in the best way.
No visit to Mauritius is complete without trying dol purée. It is considered the national dish, and you will find it at street stalls across the island.
This is where things get serious, because this looks simple. A soft flatbread filled with yellow split peas, but then they add bean curry chutneys, sometimes pickles, and suddenly you are holding something that is far more complex than it looks.
The flavor balance is what makes it work. It is warm, slightly spicy, layered with different textures, and it is designed to be eaten on the go.
Joe approached it like a structured meal, very controlled, very careful. I went in with confidence and immediately underestimated the chutney. Let us just say it had more personality than expected.
It was a strong introduction.
It was a lesson.
Mauritius is not just one experience. It is movement, from coast to mountain, from calm to energy, from quiet moments to unexpected ones.
It is also a place that rewards curiosity. The more you explore, the more it gives back.
And that is what stays with you. We woke up at the Hilton Mauritius Resort and Spa in Mauritius. And for a moment, it felt like the world had decided to slow down just for us. The kind of morning where the light comes in softly, the ocean is already awake, and the biggest decision you have to make is whether you start the day with coffee or just stand there and take it all in. Naturally, we tried to do both. Mauritius has this way of easing you into the day. It does not rush you. It does not demand anything. It just quietly reminds you that you are somewhere special. And today, we decided to see just how many sides of this island we could fit into one day. First stop, Grand Bay. Now, if the south of Mauritius is where you come to breathe, the north is where things start to move. Grand Bay is the kind of place where the energy picks up just enough to keep things interesting. Shops open early, music drifts through the streets, and everywhere you look, there is something trying to catch your attention. We made our way into the Bazaar de Grand Bay, and this is where things get fun, because this is not the kind of place where you just walk through. This is where you explore. Colorful fabrics hanging in rows, handmade crafts lined up like tiny works of art, and spices that somehow smell like they already know what you are going to cook next.
I am just going to look.
That sentence has never once in history meant what it says, because 5 minutes later, we are holding souvenirs we did not plan to buy, trying to decide which ones we absolutely cannot leave behind. And here is the thing. Markets like this are not just about what you take with you. They are about the experience, the conversations, the colors, the feeling that you have stepped into something real. Eventually, we stepped back out into the sunshine and made our way towards something a little quieter. Cap Malheureux. Now the name translates to something a little dramatic, but the place itself could not feel more peaceful. Right there, sitting calmly by the ocean, is the famous red roof church, Notre Dame Auxiliatrice, and the first thing you notice is the contrast. Bright red roof, deep blue sky, clear turquoise water stretching out behind it. It looks almost too perfect, like someone designed it that way on purpose.
This feels like a postcard, but in real life.
Exactly. And for a moment, everything just slows down again. People walk quietly, the ocean moves gently, and the only real sound is the wind moving through the palm trees. It is the kind of place where you do not need to do anything. You just stand there and let it happen. But as calm as that moment was, we had something a little more adventurous planned next, because just off the coast, as Île Cerfs, and getting there already feels like part of the experience. The boat cuts across the water, the coastline fades behind you, and suddenly you are surrounded by nothing but ocean and sky. And then, the island appears, white sand, clear water, palm trees swaying like they have nowhere else to be. This is where Mauritius turns into that dream you keep saving for later. And today, we were not just here to look at it. We started with parasailing. Now there is a moment right before you lift off where you question every decision that led you there. And then suddenly, you are in the air, floating above the island, looking down at water so clear it almost does not look real.
Okay, this is worth it.
That is usually the turning point. Because once you are up there, everything feels calm, the noise disappears, the world looks smaller, and for a few minutes it is just you and the view. Back on the island, we tried something even more unique, the underwater sea walk. Now, if you have never heard of this, it sounds exactly like what it is. Walking on the ocean floor, helmet on steps, slow, and suddenly, you are surrounded by fish moving through the water like you are part of their world.
I feel like I am visiting someone else's home.
And they did not even ask for an invitation. It is quiet down there. Peaceful and just a little bit surreal. Eventually, we made our way back. But a little saltier, a little more sun-kissed, and definitely ready for the next part of the day, because Mauritius is not just about beaches. It has stories. And one of those stories begins with something simple. Sugar. We headed to l'Aventure du Sucre, an old sugar factory turned into a museum. Now this might sound like a history stop, but it is more than that, because sugar, or white gold as it was once called, shaped this entire island. For centuries, this was not just an ingredient, it was the economy, the reason people came here, the reason the island grew. Walking through the museum, you see how everything connects. The machines, the process, the people, and how something so small could have such a big impact.
So basically, this is where sugar became serious.
Very serious. And just when you think you have learned everything, you get to the tasting section, which suddenly makes history a lot more interesting. From there, we stepped into something completely different again, the Pamplemousse's Botanical Garden. Now, this is not just a garden. This is one of the oldest botanical gardens in the Southern Hemisphere, and it feels like stepping into a living collection of the world's most interesting plants. This is where nature shows off a little. The giant Victoria Amazonica water lilies, floating wide across the surface of the water, looking almost too perfect to be real.
Are those actually strong enough to hold something?
Technically, yes, but I am not volunteering to test it. And then there are the talipot palms. These trees can grow for decades and then flower just once before completing their life cycle. It is a reminder that even here, everything has its own timing. By now, the day had taken us through just about everything: adventure, then history, then nature, which meant there was only one thing left: food. We found ourselves at a busy market stall, drawn in by the smell before we even saw it. Gâteau piment small, crispy chili bites, golden on the outside, soft on the inside, and just enough spice to keep things interesting.
Okay, these are dangerous.
Not because they are spicy, because you cannot stop at one. And that is the problem. Because one turns into two turns into a handful, and suddenly you are standing there wondering how that happened.
I am calling this research.
Very thorough research. As the day started to wind down, we found ourselves back where we started: the ocean, the light, the calm. But everything felt different because now it was not just a place. It was a collection of moments. A market full of life, a quiet church by the sea, an island that felt like a dream, a history shaped by something as simple as sugar, a garden that reminded you to slow down, and a snack that you will definitely think about again later. Mauritius does not try to impress you all at once. It lets you discover it piece by piece.
And somehow every piece fits.
Exactly. And that is what makes a place stay with you. Not one big moment, but all the small ones adding up.
There is a side of Mauritius that does not try to impress you. It does not rush. It does not compete. It simply exists. Quietly, powerfully. And once you step into it, everything slows down. The day begins in the highlands at Ganga Talao, also known as Grand Bassin, a crater lake surrounded by forest. But this is not just a natural sight. It is one of the most sacred places in Mauritius. A towering statue rises above the landscape, 108 feet tall, still calm, watching over the lake. The air feels different here, quieter, more intentional. Incense drifts lightly, and people move with quiet respect. And then, without warning, monkeys appear.
I feel like they have been here longer than all of us.
They definitely behave like they own the place. They move easily between trees and pathways, completely at home, part of the space, not separate from it. There is a stillness here that you do not rush. You pause. You take it in, because this is not a place you move through quickly. It is a place that asks you to slow down. Then the landscape opens. Black River Gorges, National Park Mauritius, at its wildest, dense forest, rolling hills and trails that lead deep into the island. This is where Mauritius changes. Not just beaches, but living terrain. From higher ground, the view stretches across valleys and ridgelines, layers of green fading into the distance.
This is not the Mauritius people expect.
And that is exactly why it matters. Standing here, you realize something. This island is not small. It just reveals itself slowly. The wind moves through the trees, clouds shift overhead, and everything feels still, even though it never really is. Then the mood changes. Grisgris, where the island shows its raw edge. Unlike most of Mauritius, there is no coral reef here. Nothing softens the ocean. The Indian Ocean meets the cliffs directly. Waves crash with full force, powerful and unfiltered.
And this feels like the ocean has something to say.
And it is saying it loudly. Just along the coastline, La Roche qui pleure, the weeping rock, water crashes against the cliffs, then rises through the rock formations, like the stone itself is breathing. It happens again and again and again, and somehow it never feels repetitive. Then everything softens again. Bois Chéri Tea Plantation. Amazing and calming view of rolling green fields across gentle hills. Tea has been grown here for generations, shaped by climate and altitude over time. Inside the process is precise. Leaves are picked and dried with precise blending. Each step intentional, each step exact. Then comes the moment, a cup of tea, overlooking a volcanic lake. Calm but still, and yet balanced.
Now, this feels like the kind of place where you stop checking the time and enjoy the moment for what it is.
Because here, time is not the priority. Then the energy builds again. Rochester Falls, where water flows over basalt columns, perfectly rectangular, shaped by ancient volcanic cooling. It looks structured, but it is completely natural. From above, the patterns become clear, lines with movement but so balanced yet simple but striking. And then, something unexpected. palm heart salad, often called millionaire's salad, made from the inner core of palm trees, a rare delicacy, because harvesting it means the tree cannot grow back, which makes this dish something special. The texture is delicate, fresh, and light, with a flavor that feels completely unique.
This is one of those dishes you remember, as each one is one of a kind.
Because it is not just about taste, it is about the story behind it. The south of Mauritius does not compete. It does not need to. It offers something deeper. Calm perspective and connection, from sacred spaces to wild landscapes to powerful coastlines.
There's a different side to Mauritius, one that does not rush to impress you. It waits, because today is not about perfect beaches. It is about stories, rare ones, quiet ones, the kind you only notice if you slow down just enough, and it starts just off the coast. We left the mainland early, the water calm, the air still ahead of us, l'eau aigrette, and what looks like a small island is actually one of the last remaining fragments of original Mauritius. Birds nested on the ground, reptiles moved slowly, and species trusted their environment, and within a short period, many of them disappeared. The dodo, the broad-billed parrot, and the Mauritian giant skink all lost within a few generations.
So this island shows what was almost gone.
Not just what was lost, but what has been rebuilt, because restoration work began here in the 1980s, led by the Mauritian Wildlife Foundation, with the goal of bringing the original ecosystem back, piece by piece. What makes this island unique starts beneath your feet. This is raised coral limestone, not volcanic rock, which means the soil holds less water, and the plants that grow here have adapted in very specific ways. You find rare native species like ebony trees, once over-harvested for their dark hardwood, bois de nat takamaka, and the latanier palm, all part of a forest that once covered much of Mauritius.
So this is not just nature. It is carefully rebuilt.
Exactly. Every plant here has been reintroduced to recreate balance. And then you meet the giants, the Aldabra giant tortoises, originally from the Seychelles brought here to replace the extinct Mauritian tortoises. These animals are ecosystem engineers. They eat fruits, spread seeds, and help forests regenerate naturally.
So, they are part of the system.
Exactly. Some weigh over 250 kilograms and can live more than 100 years moving slowly, but playing a massive role. But the most powerful story here is smaller. The pink pigeon in the early 1990s, fewer than 10 remained in the wild, making it one of the rarest birds on Earth. Through conservation, including captive breeding habitat restoration and feeding programs, the population recovered, and today, several hundred exist.
That is a comeback.
And a reminder that conservation works. From restoration, we moved into history. Mahébourg, one of the oldest villages on the island, founded during the French colonial period, and named after Mahé de la Bourdonnais. This place does not feel staged. It feels lived in every street, every building part of an ongoing story. Just offshore, in 1810, the Battle of Grand Port took place, a naval clash between French and British forces, and against expectations, the French won. It became the only naval victory Napoleon ever recorded, and even today, it is commemorated on the Arc de Triomphe in Paris.
So this quiet bay is part of global history.
Exactly. From land, we moved into another world. Blue Bay Marine Park, protected since 1997, and home to one of the most diverse coral ecosystems in Mauritius. Here, you find coral species, like Acropora forming branching structures, porids creating massive rounded colonies, and brain coral with maze-like surfaces, all built by tiny living polyps over decades. Their colors come from symbiotic algae, soft browns, yellows, greens, and occasional flashes of purple and blue, depending on light and health.
So the reef is alive in more ways than one.
Exactly. And it supports hundreds of species, making it one of the most important ecosystems on the island. The more you look, the more you realize this is not just a reef, it is a living system. Porids corals here can be over 100 years old, while faster growing, Acropora creates shelter for smaller fish. You also see brain coral shaped to maximize sunlight, because coral depends on light to survive, and without it, the entire system collapses. Reefs like this support nearly 25% of marine life, despite covering less than 1% of the ocean floor, making them some of the most important ecosystems on Earth.
So this small space holds a lot.
Exactly. And it is also fragile. Changes in temperature or pollution can cause coral bleaching, which is why protection here matters so much. Back on land, we stepped into history through agriculture. Le Domaine de Saint-Aubin, a colonial estate connected to the sugar industry that shaped Mauritius. Sugar, known as white gold, once drove the entire economy, bringing workers from India, Africa, and China, shaping the culture we see today. Here, you also find vanilla, originally from Mexico, introduced to the island and adapted crafted through careful cultivation. Because the natural pollinator does not exist here. Every flower must be pollinated by hand within hours of blooming.
So that small flavor takes a lot of work.
Months of growth and curing before it becomes what we recognize. And that story continues in the food Mauritian biryani, originally brought by Indian laborers, evolved into something unique, blending Indian spices with Creole influence and local techniques. Unlike traditional versions, this one is prepared in stages, the rice cooked separately, the meat marinated and layered, creating a lighter but deeply aromatic dish.
So it is built over time.
Exactly, and often served at celebrations, making it more than just a meal. It is something people gather around.
We made a brief stop at Flack Market, the largest open-air market on the island, where everyday life unfolds through color, movement, and sound. With lots of fresh produce, spices, and fabrics, everything moving quickly, but naturally a place where you see the rhythm of daily life, rather than just observe it.
A restored island, a historic village, a living reef, a plantation shaped by time, and a dish that brings cultures together. Mauritius does not show you everything at once. It lets you discover it day by day.
And every piece adds something new. 4 days, 4 completely different sides of Mauritius, and somehow every single one added something new. From early mornings on the water, to moments that slowed everything down, to places that quietly surprised us, and a few that definitely did not stay quiet for long. There were views that made you stop, food that made you rethink your limits, and at least one moment where Joe was absolutely convinced he had everything under control. He did not. And that is the thing about this journey. It never gives you just one version of a place. It keeps shifting, layer by layer, moment by moment. So if you think you have seen it all, you have not. Not even close. Join us again next week, right here on the Sky Channel, every Monday at 8:30, because what is coming next feels like a completely different world. So don't miss it.